25 years I called this place home. Every laugh, every tear, every secret whispered under these rafters, it was all mine. And then, one morning, I got the call. My brother sold our childhood home without telling me. I hadn't seen the for sale sign until I drove up the street last week, windows down, memories flooding back. The paint was fresh, the lawn pristine, but something felt wrong. I parked in front, heart pounding, phone shaking in my hand as I dialed Dad's old number. Disconnected. I pushed open the gate, its latch rusty but familiar, and stepped onto the porch. The wooden boards creaked beneath my feet like old friends, grudging their welcome. I unlocked the door with a key I'd kept on my keychain long after I moved away. Inside, the house smelled like varnish and new beginnings. The floral wallpaper in the hallway had been stripped, replaced by stark white. My mother's delicate china was gone. The living room fireplace where my brother and I roasted marshmallows on cold nights lay empty, ashes swept away. I wandered through each room, reliving fragments of childhood. My old bedroom had been converted into a home office. The desk faced the window overlooking the backyard where I first learned to ride a bike. A leather chair sat in the center of the room, as if expecting someone else. My brother's name was on the brass nameplate. Alexander Hayes, Realtor. A realtor. The word echoed in my mind. I felt bile rise in my throat. I'd known he'd gotten his license last year, but I never imagined he'd use it on our own sanctuary. I stepped outside to the backyard. The oak tree I'd carved our initials into as a teenager still stood, scarred but sturdy. Sunlight filtered through its leaves, casting dappled shadows on the grass. I traced the carving with my finger, A+J, nearly faded to nothing. My chest tightened. He'd sold it to strangers, I realized. People who didn't know our stories, who wouldn't understand why the living room window overlooked the street where we used to build snowmen every winter. People who wouldn't care about the secret stash of baseball cards hidden under the floorboard in the guest room. I slammed the gate and stormed down the driveway toward my car. Questions swirled. How could he do this without telling me? Was he in financial trouble? Did he hate me that much? I didn't trust him to answer calmly. I needed facts. I called the county records office and learned the sale closed 2 weeks ago. The buyer's name was unfamiliar, a couple moving in from out of state. The price was higher than I'd ever imagined the house could fetch, enough to change someone's life. But for me, it felt like a funeral. I drove to my brother's apartment, adrenaline fueling my anger. He opened the door in a bathrobe, hair tousled, coffee mug in hand. His eyes widened when he saw my face. "Jess, what's wrong?" He stepped aside, letting me in. The place was minimalist, white walls, sleek furniture. Nothing like the cluttered warmth of our old home. He set his mug on the kitchen counter. "Talk to me." I paced the living room, fists clenched. "You sold the house without telling me." He ran a hand through his hair. I didn't think you'd care. You moved away years ago. I needed the money for my license exam and then some. Property taxes were due. It was getting expensive." "Expensive?" I laughed, voice cracking. "Expensive like a lifetime of memories?" He frowned. "Come on, Jen. It's our parents' place. They left it to both of us equally. I just handled the paperwork." "You handled everything but telling me?" I jabbed a finger toward him. "I'm supposed to be your sister. I should have been the first to know." He crossed his arms. "I didn't hide it to be malicious. I sent you emails. Remember that chain last month? I asked if you wanted to buy in." "Emails?" I remembered a brief message buried in my promotions folder, something about house sale that I'd skimmed and deleted. "I never saw them," I said quietly, guilt creeping in. He sighed. "Maybe I could have called. But you were always so busy. Job in New York, fiancé, social life. I thought it was easier this way." I sank onto the couch, anger and hurt colliding. "Easier for who?" He ran his fingers over the coffee mug on the table. "Look, it wasn't about leaving you out. I grew up there too. But I've been here, struggling with bills, trying to build a life. Selling gave me a fresh start, and a buffer against debt. I stared at him, trying to process. My brother, once the kid who shared my bed during thunderstorms, was reduced to a stranger explaining financial hardship. I get it, I said quietly, but you could have told me. He met my gaze. I'm sorry, I messed up. I exhaled, tension easing slightly. Sorry doesn't bring the house back. He nodded. I know, it can't. But I can help you feel a part of the memories again. I'm paying for your trip back. Take one last look. Say goodbye properly. I closed my eyes. Goodbye? He shrugged. I keep thinking it's just a building, but I see now it's more than that. Part of me wanted to forgive him. Part of me wanted to stomp out and pretend I never cared. But I needed closure. Fine, I said, voice firm. I'll go back, but I want you to help me gather everything that matters before I leave. He nodded and offered me water. I took a sip, tasting the bitterness of reality. The next morning, we drove to the old neighborhood together in silence. Childhood songs and silly arguments were replaced by the hum of the engine. I felt like a visitor stepping into someone else's life. At the curb, I paused. The new owner's SUV sat in the driveway. I gripped the door handle. They're here, I whispered. He nodded. I told them we might visit. They said it was okay. I exhaled and walked up to the door. The bell jingled in my hand before I rang. A woman in her 30s opened it, polite smile in place. Hi, I'm Jennifer Hayes. My brother and I used to live here. Would you mind if we took a quick tour? She hesitated. Sure, but we're in a rush. 5 minutes, I managed a small smile. She stepped aside. Right this way. We entered. Light spilled through the new blinds. The walls were bare except for a single abstract painting. The fireplace was intact, but staged as decoration. I ran a hand over the mantel and saw nothing but dust. I led my brother through room by room, pointing out details. The dent in the wall where we once slammed a baseball. The scratch on the door frame that marked our height. The corner in the kitchen where we hid during hide and seek. The woman watched politely but didn't comment. In the guest room, I knelt and pried up the floorboard where I'd stashed my baseball cards. The metal box lay empty. My heart clenched as I realized he'd cleared that out too. I stood and faced him. He looked down, shame etched on his face. I'm sorry, he whispered. I turned back to the woman. We're done. Outside, I leaned against the fence. My brother stayed by the front steps. The new owners drove off without a backward glance. I felt a hollow ache, like losing someone close. I know, he said softly. I looked at him. You knew I'd hate me, he swallowed. I hoped you'd understand one day. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath of summer air, and nodded. Maybe, but not today. He reached out, but I stepped back. I need time. I walked to my car and paused, looking back at the house one last time. The place held echoes of laughter and heartache, my life distilled into walls and floors. I pressed the unlock button and the locks clicked open. I got in, engine roaring a life, and drove away while the house stood silent behind me. As the road stretched ahead, I realized some losses can't be undone, but maybe, with time, they can be understood. And that, I decided, was a start. I spent the next week holed up in my apartment, replaying every moment at the house on a loop in my mind. The endless replay felt like a soundtrack I couldn't mute. Friends called, concerned, "How are you?" But the words stuck in my throat. How could I explain that I felt exiled from my own past? When Saturday came, I forced myself out of bed before noon. I left a note for my fiancé, "Gone for a drive, be back later," and grabbed my keys. I needed space, even if that space led me back toward the old neighborhood. The sky was overcast, a soft drizzle blurring the road ahead. I drove without direction until I spotted the creek where Dad taught me to skip stones. The bank was muddy, the water swollen from rain, but the spot felt sacred. I got out, tossed my phone on the trunk, and walked to the edge. Stones skipped once, twice, then sank. I knelt, pressed my palms against the cool mud, and closed my eyes. A memory surfaced. Dad's gentle voice coaching me to hold the stone just so. Mom laughing as we piled into the back of the truck afterward, picnic basket in hand. My chest tightened. I opened my eyes and stared at the water, wondering if life really could be divided into before and after. I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to see my brother, soaked from head to toe, boots caked in mud. He approached slowly, respect in his gait. He didn't need to speak. I understood his apology was trailing in his wake, heavier than any words. He knelt beside me. "I thought you'd never come back," he said softly. I didn't respond. Instead, I picked up a stone, tossed it. I waited for him to respond, but he was studying the creek. After a moment, he cleared his throat. "I booked us a trip next month," he said, voice rough. "Back to the mountains, the cabin Dad built. I know how much it meant to both of us." I frowned. "You sold our home, Alex? Now you want to whisk me away to another?" He winced. "I know it sounds manipulative, but that cabin, our dad's cabin, is still in my name alone. He left it to me when he passed. I thought we could go together, like old times." The wind picked up, snapping loose strands of his hair. I turned back to the creek. "Old times," I repeated. Those words tasted bitter. The cabin was sacred, yes, but it was also a reminder of the family we lost. Dad died there, standing on that deck and pointing at the valley, saying, "This land will always belong to us." I looked at Alex. His eyes were red around the edges, damp from rain or emotion. I realized I was crying too, though my cheeks were dry. "You just can't let me grieve in peace," I whispered. He closed his eyes, nodding. "Maybe not, but I'm trying." I sighed, letting the tension drain from my shoulders. "Why are you really doing this?" He opened his eyes, searching mine. "Because I miss you. Because I need you. Because I screwed up, and I don't know how else to make it right." I traced a finger over the muddy ground. "You know guilt isn't a currency you can spend to buy forgiveness." He leaned back on his hands, staring at the sky. "I'm learning that. But I have a plan. We go to the cabin. We stay for a week. No phones, no distractions. We'll clear out all the old stuff. Mom's quilt, Dad's tools, the journals he kept, and we'll decide what to do with it, together." I considered the offer. The cabin held ghosts, but it also held the potential for something new. "Okay," I said at last, "but on one condition. We do it my way." He quirked an eyebrow. "Which is?" "No surprises, full transparency, and if either of us decides we can't go through with it, we walk away." He extended his hand. "Deal." We shook on it, mud transferring between our palms, a messy but honest pact. 2 weeks later, we arrived at the cabin. The drive wound through pines that towered overhead, their needles dripping from the recent rain. I felt my chest expand, free of the city's tight cage. Alex parked in the gravel lot, cut through a log we had once split together, and the cabin stood before us. Wooden, weathered, but still standing. Inside, the air was cool and smelled of pine and old paper. Dust motes floated in the sunlight that filtered through the leaded windows. I ran my hand along the railing of the stairs, remembering racing my brother to the top and collapsing in laughter. We spent the first day unpacking. Bins of tools, boxes of Mom's knitting supplies, Dad's journals with spines cracked from use. Each box was a time capsule. Sometimes we laughed, finding Dad's failed attempts at carving a chair. Sometimes we cried, reading his last entries about missing us both when we lived apart. That night, we sat on the deck with hot chocolate, rain pattering on the roof. I stared at the valley spread below, lights from distant houses like fireflies in the dark. Alex rummaged through his jacket and pulled out an envelope. "I found it when I was clearing the old house," he said, handing it to me. My name was scrawled on the front in Dad's handwriting. I swallowed hard before reading. "My dear children, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I want you to know that this cabin is more than logs and nails. It's a testament to our family. Your memories are the true foundation. I leave it to Alex because I know he'll keep it safe, but I hope Jen will come visit. Take care of each other. Love, Dad." My breath caught. Tears burned my eyes. I looked at Alex. He wiped his tears away, voice soft. "I didn't know you found that letter." I closed my eyes, feeling the letter's weight in my hands. "He wanted me here," I whispered. "All along." Alex reached out and squeezed my shoulder. "Then let's honor his wish." The next morning, I woke before sunrise and slipped outside. The mist clung to the trees like a veil. I paced the deck, digesting the letter's words. Dad's faith in us, his desire to keep us together even after he was gone. I called my fiancé. "I'm okay," I said simply. "I needed this trip. I love you." I told him about the cabin, the letter. His voice on the other end was warm and steady, grounding me. Back in the cabin, we spent the next few days cataloging Dad's things. We organized the tools in the shed, patched the holes in the floor, and sorted through boxes of photos, black and white prints of childhood vacations, birthday parties, holiday dinners. Each image was a thread that wove our past with our present. On the last night, we built a fire in the stone hearth. The flames danced, casting flickering shadows on the walls. Alex and I sat on either side, knees almost touching. "I'm glad we did this," he said after a long silence. "I'm sorry I sold the house. I see now what it meant to you." I stared into the flames. "And I'm sorry I shut you out afterward. I blamed you for everything, but you were just trying to do what you thought was best." He nodded. "We both messed up." I smiled, a genuine one that reached my eyes. "But we got ourselves back, didn't we?" He reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 peas on a wooden keychain shaped like a cabin. "I had these made," he said, handing one to me. I took the key, feeling its weight. "Thank you." We sat in comfortable silence as the fire crackled. Outside, the night was still, the forest breathing around us. I felt a peace I hadn't known since I'd driven away from the house on that rainy morning. Weeks later, I flew back to New York, carrying the key on a chain around my neck. I returned to my life, job, apartment, fiancé, friends, but something had shifted. I'd reclaimed a part of myself that I thought was lost, and I'd found a stronger bond with my brother. On my desk, I placed a photo. Alex and I as kids, grinning on the cabin porch. Beneath it, the envelope with Dad's letter. I hadn't read it since that night, but I keep it close. A reminder of where I came from and where I was going. Every month, Alex and I plan a weekend trip to the cabin. Sometimes it's just the 2 of us. Other times we bring friends, even my fiancé. We've turned it into a living memory, not a mausoleum. We laugh, we argue, and we make new memories under those same rafters. And sometimes, late at night, when the wind rustles the pines and the fire has died down to embers, I step outside and look up at the stars. I whisper to the valley, to Dad's spirit, and to the home I lost and found again. Thank you for bringing us back together. Because home isn't just a house. It's the people who fill it, and the love that endures, even when the walls change hands.